This is the Boss Club. We're back after a week off. I'm so glad to be back that I've put dark lipstick on and no mascara. So I look like a weird, sleepy lady. But we're gonna go with it. The Boss Club, is with Hera Hussein. I'm super excited to chat all things being a boss. As usual, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. Also, compliments also always. I haven't spoken to anyone all day, so I'm just working out words. La la la. Compliments are always welcome at all times. Strike my jumper. Sarah Tully, thank you. Getting straight in on the compliments. I think you look amazing. Cheers. No mascara. It's weird. When you see yourself and you haven't seen yourself sort of for a while and you've done a weird makeup and then looking at your own face is scary. That's where I am. Anyway, we're going to be talking about being a boss with the wonderful Hera Hussein, who I thought, is she here? We're waiting for her. I sometimes think my internet's really bad. Oh, here we go. Hi,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I was just moaning about my internet because sometimes when I watch these back, I'm like weirdly blurry and my guest is like sharp. But then I'm like, as long as the guest is sharp, that's all that
Opposite
matters.
time. I think you are very clear, and I feel like I am blurry. I'm actually going to push the tripod because I feel like everybody should be able to count all the hairs on my face, which is kind of like, yeah, it's too
Well,
close.
that is always part of the boss club. That's what we do. We just go through, count all our
But
stray hairs. Even the nipple ones, love it. People are waving, hello. But feel free to ask any questions, but we're going to have a general chat. So this is called the Boss Club, and I basically invite people on who I think are like bossing life, and that's you. So for anyone who doesn't know you, do you want to do a little introduction to who you are?
yes, I will. And this is a complete mystery to me. So just so everyone knows, I have been given zero instructions on what will be discussed in this session. So you know what? This is very exciting for me. I like surprises. I'm Hera Hussein. I am 31 years old, which at one
Woo!
point I was the end of one's life, and obviously is not. And I was born in the UK actually, but I grew up in Pakistan in Lahore, and came to the UK for university, went to Glasgow, and since then started working in technology and founded Chen, which is a nonprofit, volunteer-run nonprofit that supports survivors of gender-based violence across the world. It's um, it's run by a lot of survivors, so we have a very big focus on people who experience issues, really driving, the solutions for themselves. And I basically went full time last July, but before that, I also had a full time job, which was
Wow.
yeah, it was working on government transparency and fighting corruption. And I used to train investigative journalists on how to, look at things like Panama Papers and other sort of like public procurement related scandals, like the stuff that's been happening in the UK with and the US, basically every country around COVID contracts. So that's also a hat that I wear. I'm really passionate about transparency and accountability.
Oh my gosh. So you do so much. So the Boss Club is basically me just having a chat with amazing people because I think they're amazing. That's why there's no instruction. It's just we're gonna see what happens.
I'm
Also,
a
I'm really bad at organizing. So
big
the fact that we organize this is like as far as it goes. Um, but you've done so many amazing things. You aren't you a UN woman as well, and you were Forbes. Oh no, well I
not
saw you
with
on.
UN women, no, but yes, I am on the Forbes under 30 list.
Yeah, I think UN Women shared something to do with you
Yeah,
being.
they have supported like my work and have shared stuff around me and Chan, which is nice. This is how it should be.
So how did you come up? How did you get into helping women with, in vulnerable situations or domestic violence situations?
So since I can remember, always wanted to do something on women's rights. I grew up in a very progressive, happy household. But obviously, when one is a woman, like society makes sure that you realize that you do not, play all the cards. So through just looking at people around me and my own experiences of like, just being a girl in Pakistan, I really it was very evident to me that there were things that needed to change, and that feeling of powerlessness, but also restlessness. So when I came to Glasgow, I got involved in entrepreneurship, and I tried to start lots of ethical fashion startups that supported survivors of like gender-based violence, and especially like single mothers and stuff like that. But nothing really took off. And then Chain started by accident because I was helping a friend very close to me who was Pakistani but lived in the UK, and another friend who was in Pakistan. And I just lost touch with her over the years. We went to some after school like education sessions together. And as a like 20, 21 year old, I just, and I was a super tech user. Like I was working for tech startups. I was just like in everything. It's like I'm just like a digital native. I was crazy about all the things happening. And yeah, for me, it was surprising that when I helped them, I was going online to find things and I just couldn't find them. And the stuff that I found was really not diverse. So it was very written for a very specific, like white Western audience. Even when we talked to, like, even when I came across things that were directed towards migrants. So like at that time, I'm talking 2013, and 2012, this like all the translations on like websites of like major, like insert any women's rights organization in the UK or US, um, were just like hidden away. Like it was like, you enter the website and the website was like, our CEO on this awards ceremony, here's our report, for our funders. And I just like, it was weird for me because I was like, okay, well, I'm not looking for this. I would just like go and find them. And then when I was trying to look for translations, they were hidden away and oftentimes were so bad. They were like wholly like inaccurate. Like it was like shockingly inaccurate. Wrong font, wrong gender. Like there was just so many problems. So there was just like big gaps. And then when I was my friend who was in the UK, when we tried to figure out her document, like her migration status meant that she did not want to go to, she was scared of going to an organization. And we couldn't call because I couldn't call on her behalf because you have to be the person who, who's experiencing to be able to attend a call. You couldn't check shelter spaces because they don't disclose that information. Whenever she called, no one called her back. I called, pretended to be her. Like, I mean, I can go on for hours, but there were so many issues. I was just like, wow, how is someone who is experiencing like trauma supposed to like navigate all of this? Why is it so hard? And yeah, then once my friend was settled, she stayed with me. And then when she was fine, I just thought, I attended a business models hackathon, which is like, I used to attend so many hackathons at that time. But this one was amazing because it was about coming up with business models for charities. And during that, I met lots of like entrepreneurs who had started charities and social enterprises. And I was like, wow, they've done it. Maybe I should do something. And I just put all the resources that I had found for my friends and made a website and started telling people that I'm sort of putting this together. Would you like to help? And it was supposed to be only for Pakistan and people from Pakistani backgrounds outside of Pakistan. But then the visits we got were from all around the world, like Brazil, Mexico, Canada, and just, yeah. So I thought, okay, there's obviously a big demand. And since then, Jan kind of went global.
Wow, it's an amazing story. And I think sometimes always the best things happen by accident, because you said it was like you're trying to set up these other businesses, and this sort of came out of you recognizing a gap. And I think I could relate to that when you were looking at translations and they were so wrong, because I have a hearing aid. So I'm part of the deaf community. And so when I'm looking up transcriptions or even subtitles, like I was watching a TV show just before this, and it was it was a European show that had been translated for a UK audience, but the subtitles were different from the dubbing voice, which was also like, so they dubbed it in the UK, but then the UK subtitles were different from the dubbing, and it's just like we've got subtitles there so we can try and understand exactly what's going on. And because I have some hearing, I was like, but it's not the same. And this is just going to add even more confusion because
Sounds
obviously,
amazing.
yeah, and obviously you can't read lips if it's a foreign film that's dubbed in the UK. So it's even more important that the sound matches the. Anyway, so I could definitely relate to that bit of it. And
So interesting. And I think one of the things that we want to focus a lot on this year is about making our existing resources more accessible. And yeah, and obviously like audio versions of things is important, like, visual like inclusion is important. And definitely it's something I don't know much about, I will say. And it's something I've taken on as a challenge, and I really want to learn more about it. And, now that I am getting paid to do this and I can hire
yeah,
people to make things more inclusive and learn more. And yeah, I'm really excited about learning how to do this better.
it's I want to talk to you about being your own boss as well. I just want to say that obviously I'm talking about being in the deaf community, and we're talking on Instagram Live, and there's no captions enabled because you can only enable captions on really short videos. So I realize the irony of me doing this, but Instagram Live is just a really great platform, and I message them like every week being like, can we have captions on longer videos? So we'll see. But you try to set up lots of companies, and now you actually have is it officially a charity?
It's a social enterprise at the moment, but we're applying for charity status soon.
So you basically have your charity and you're working on it full time. And as you said, you can employ people. So you're going to be a boss.
Yeah, I am at the moment. There, we've got a few members of staff part time, but thing is, like, I've been managing a team of volunteers with them, and we have a huge volunteer community. In total, we have about 400 people from different parts of the world, and based on, like, we run on cycles, so we have 4-month cycles people can join for, and then at the end of it, we ask people if they want to leave. Stuff is happening in their lives, and we allow new people to join, which is about 30-40 people. So yes, over the course of a year, myself and other people in the management team who are also volunteers end up managing about 120 different kinds of people, and these are people from all walks of life. So if you think management within one community is is a matter, like, then managing cross-cultural communication is completely different.
Yeah, well, so how do you go about that? Like, first of all, what does being a boss mean to you in this context?
I think managing a team has been absolutely the toughest thing, where I've both failed massively, and have learned from that, and also has been one of the most rewarding parts of building an organization. So when I think about, like, management or boss, which I think has kind of a power dynamic in it, the word is weird, but I'm not one for semantics. So boss, manager, whatever, I just detest the power dynamics in both. um, it's being supportive, empathetic, but someone who is quite can provide guidance and fill in the gaps of your staff where there is a lack of experience, skills, or expertise, but also learn from them where they have skills, experience, opinions, and giving people enough space, the balance between giving people space to explore things that they might not know or things they know and they want to try out, and at the same time being able to rein that in when it's counterproductive, and provide guidance for the organization. Yeah, I guess how I would see management.
And how I think that's really interesting that you said that there are power dynamics that come with the word boss. And that's why I wanted to create a club called the Boss Club and interview people who are like, I think are like bossing life. And maybe, the world, if I think boss from when I grew up, it was like a straight white man in a black pinstripe suit going into work with a briefcase. And actually, of course, the world is so much more diverse than that. And, I own my own social media company. Even, me as a young woman, when I was under 30, I'm slightly over 30 now, just a couple of years, going into meetings and then, you know, couldn't comprehend that I was the boss of the company. So what's it like for you managing hundreds of people and the buck stops with you? How does that feel?
It feels heavy. I'll just
Yeah.
does feel heavy. And I think that I try to learn from all the bad experiences I've had, both as being like managing people and you're reflecting back on my own practices, but also learning from where I was an employee and I felt like management fell short. But also, I think once you become a manager, you see your past managers in a very different light and you start appreciating many things that you misconstrued or didn't understand or were frustrated by. Also, like seeing where things were done really well and you just didn't notice until you're in that position. So, like you mentioned, walking into meetings where people cannot imagine you to be a boss, an entrepreneur. One of my like fondest memories from my last job was we had a meeting with a minister in the UK government, and myself, my colleague, who is another, she's Malaysian, so it's me and her. And my boss was a white man, and he, we were meeting the minister, and he used to be so good at this that he, first of all, he made sure that as soon as we met the minister, he was introduced first. But this literally the second afterwards, what he did was he turned to us and then introduced us. And then when we sat down on the table, he I tried to say something and my boss was mid-sentence. So something just came out of my mouth and I was like, oh, should have waited for him to finish the sentence. Why? And he gave me space every single time, me and my colleague. So that's a really good display of leadership. And I feel like that's the kind of leadership that I want to emulate. But also not throwing people into the spotlight if they're uncomfortable doing so. I think there is a slight toxic positivity, if sometimes where people think, just let people do whatever they want and like just throw them into challenges, but not everyone's comfortable with that. Some people need more guidance and more upfront like support. And the difficulty of being a manager is knowing who needs what and what you have that you're able to provide, and just being honest with your team about that and acknowledging when things, can't be done.
I think that's really interesting what you said about your old boss, gave you the room to speak. He sounds great. And I think there is definitely something in having the people around you, sort of having good people around you kind of makes you a better boss because, you know, you've got that kind of acceptance there or that communication. How do you see being a boss in normal life? People say hashtag bossing it.
Mhm. I find it strange. I think I've grown out of that sort of framing. When I was at university, I've always been very ambitious, so it's like I've just always knew I was going to be like pushing myself, and my parents pushed me. Like it's a very stereotypical Asian family. So for me, there was never an issue at I guess I kind of got into the culture of like entrepreneurship, people kind of like, fawning over these like celebrities, like entrepreneurs and, this person who has it all. I think over the years, I've definitely deprogrammed myself from that because I feel like that's not a very accurate depiction of the journey of being a boss and entrepreneur, because there's a lot of pain, discomfort, like stress and uncertainty in this. And a lot of the times you're kind of projecting strength when there is nothing there. You're kind of appearing confident to kind of push yourself and also push others. So there's a, there's a lot of show in here. I think the more we are able to accept different kinds of people to be bossing it, or different kinds of bossing it, it'll be great. Like, the thing that comes to my mind is around the discussion around imposter syndrome, for example. I think so many people assume that I have imposter syndrome because I'm brown. And that really surprises me, because no one who knows me would ever say that I have an inch of like imposter, and I have never faced it. This is not to say brown people do not have imposter syndrome. Of course they can have imposter. I just don't have it. Um, and like, it's just this, I think, and even admitting that makes me uncomfortable. It used to make me uncomfortable for a long time, because I just felt, well, people are going to think she's like, she thinks she has nothing to worry about, like, and it's not that. It's just something that I don't have. Doesn't mean I don't have points where I feel, like I'm, not, like, for example, this week there was a situation where I felt like I was not the best manager. So I had a good, like, not like a rant, but more like an open heart conversation with one of the volunteers, being like, oh my God, this was so tough. Today was so tough. I wasn't like, I feel like I've like failed myself and others. I just want to, like, shut everything. And just talking it over with a volunteer, again, there's a power dimension there, but I have that open relationship where I can be vulnerable in front of her and know that she has my back, and she's not going to think badly of me for both admitting that I'm wrong, or that if I felt I was right in the moment. It doesn't matter. Like, my feelings, there's space for my feelings as a manager. Often you have to shut your sort of feelings when you're managing people, because again, there's a power difference. So you make space for others, but having space for yourself within the same team is really important. And I'm really glad that I've created a culture with the help of others in our team, where my feelings, there's space for my feelings, and not just my own, everybody's, but I can be myself and, don't have to worry about it.
That sounds very healthy. I think I think vulnerability is a big part of maybe what people don't assume goes with being a boss, but actually the people that I would say are like bossing it in life, the people I follow on social media, like yourself, that I'm like, wow, look all these things that they're doing. It's actually, I think so much of that is paired with the people who can be a bit vulnerable, like on their channels, and say, today wasn't a great day, or say that, that management time when you thought, oh, I didn't handle that well. And I think for me, I think that's becoming more and more important for us to see. Obviously, it's a weird dynamic for you though, I guess, because of your kind of business model and charity. You're working with quite vulnerable people. So do you think that there's more of a emphasis on you to be the strong one?
I think people perceive that. I have a hilarious story. Someone contacted me from The Guardian because they wanted to ask me what my self-care was and how I was making sure all the volunteers were like had self-care. And I was just like, we don't have a program called self-care. We just don't. We just people who join the organization understand the work, and we can't afford, at that time we had zero money, so we can't afford to do anything. We just create a nice space within the team, and we manage it. And obviously we were not included in that article because the article was about self-care. But the point is that we
You couldn't say like we let them have a bath every week in the office where we light candles and sing to them.
no, we just talk to each other when we feel like it's getting much. Now, thankfully, that we have money, and thanks to the funders who provide money for staff well-being, we are able to provide volunteers with like 2 hours of therapy sessions. We're doing monthly well-being sessions where we just talk about whatever's going on in our life or in the organization. But those are great. But I have to say, for the 7 years of Chen, all we had was just people talking to each other and having a space where it's okay to say, I've had a tough day, I'm tipping, or a survivor, because we have so many survivors in the team. Some of our survivors don't want to sit in on other interviews with survivors, so they say it. This is too much for me. I'm not going to do this. I'll work on the design instead, and it's fine. So having that flexibility and just this recognition, that's what a trauma-informed organization is, where you understand trauma affects people in different ways, and you react your support has to be responsive to the person who's experiencing it. So I'm good at compartmentalization. And I always get asked like how, but it's I have to be, and I think that's just my personal, like, so that's the kind of thinking that works for me. Doesn't mean it works for everyone else. So just because it works for me, it doesn't make it the team culture. It's just my thing. With a team, there's space for people to, get support in the way that it works for them.
And just to sort of round things up, where do you see yourself as a boss going? Like, what's your 5-year boss plan?
I think my personal, like, if I was trying to boss my own life, I've just
Yeah.
moved into a house which I've not lived in since a long time without having. So I'm trying to like make my home feel like home. So I'm enjoying. That's been like my favorite thing in the last in lockdown has been just like working on interior design. But I'd love to. I'd love to grow the organization, but also develop. The thing that gives me the most joy is when our volunteers like push themselves and gain new skills, and and now that we're going to have staff as well, is seeing them grow into it. And for myself, I think there before lockdown, I was trying to get more into stand-up comedy, so I think I might like to do some improv. Yeah, that would be nice. And getting back into painting, and I'm trying to write a book, but it's going very slow. So I'm for the first time in my life, I'm working with a life coach, and
Amazing.
to help me through that, because again, I'm the kind of person who usually doesn't have issues or struggles with stuff, and this is something I'm struggling with, so I asked for help.
I love that. Well, I am a comedian, so I recommend Monkey Post for improv if you're looking for someone there, great. And I've also written a book, and I think word counts. You haven't asked for advice, so I'm just going to give it to you.
I'm always giving advice.
what I've what I've learned from I write children's books, which I would definitely recommend because they're much shorter. So they're like 20,000 words instead of 80,000 words. But I think word counts can be super scary. So what I always try to do is just like sit down with like an idea in my head. So like today I'm going to write this scene or about this subject, and then try not to worry too much if it's 3,000 words or 500. It's just like I'm getting that thing down on paper. But it's book writing is so exciting. So I hope you enjoy the journey. It's very stressful, but also very fun, and like getting stuff out on paper. I love. And thank you for joining us at the Boss Club. You
Okay.
are a boss. You're so welcome. And obviously, everyone who watches should follow you and follow Change. You want to give your social handles?
Yep. So I am at Hera Hussein, HeraHussain, and Jen is at CHAYNHQ, both on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, I love it. So everyone should follow, please, Hera and her amazing soon-to-be charity. And we can't wait to see more. But thank you so much for joining me. And it's been really great chatting to you about being a boss.
Yes, that's you with that word again.
You still hate the word, but I'm still forcing it at you. I'm like, you're a boss, an entrepreneur boss. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Have
Yeah.
a good evening. Bye.